Charles Violi. And after Charles, it'll be Captain Charles Robert Munsey Jr. If you just state your name for the record, please.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak here today regarding Ordinance 74-102 and 102.5. I am 74 years old, and this one mistake is the only blemish on my record. Arrested 22 years ago, I have no victims, I have served my sentence, and I'm not on probation. I have family and friends who have lived here in Brevard County since the 1970s. They are the only reason I remain here in Brevard. In addition, I am a taxpayer, college graduate, and a veteran. I have lived in Brevard County since 2012, and for the past 7 years, I have lived in a home I own in a retirement community. During this time, I have served on our HOA and continue to serve on our neighborhood watch. I have been personally introduced to Sheriff Wayne Ivey, as well as our city mayor and all city council members. It is not easy to be here today because not only me, but my friends and family are intimidated by the system, making them afraid to speak up in my behalf. When other people go to work, shopping, to a doctor or church, they do not experience the same feelings of fear or anxiety as I do. It is an awful feeling to have to live in constant fear. Will I violate the ordinance today and never go back home? The proximity restrictions prohibit my ability to travel within the county. There are no maps or list locations that tell me if I am too close to restricted areas. And as for restricted areas, I have no need or interest to go to a school, playground, parks, or daycare centers. When I need to travel to a doctor, grocery store, barber, or restaurant, I don't know if they're in the restricted areas. And the recent amendment that allows businesses to self-certify that they are a park or a playground only makes it more frightening for me to know where to go. As an American citizen, I can only hope that more care goes into our lawmakings. Do they meet our constitutional requirements? Or will they violate any person's human or civil rights before they are enacted? Are we using the correct data to make all these decisions? Are these laws actually producing safety or excessive punishment, as well as wasting police time and our taxpayer dollars, keeping in mind that all lives matter? Thank you.
Thank you. Quick question. Commissioner Tobias?
Quick question. I'm sorry. Are you the victim here?
No.
Okay. It sounded very, very close to you claiming you were a victim up here. I just want to make that clear.
Well, you feel that way because of the requirements. You don't know where to go.
Okay. So the situation,
yeah,
you feel as though you're a victim?
Like a victim. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Captain Charles Robert Munsey Jr. And after Captain Charles, Vincent Raldi. If you could just state your name, please. Can you just state your name, please, for the record when you speak?
I'm Captain Charles Robert Munsey Jr., United States Navy, retired.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm here to address the Brevard County ordinance concerning registered citizens. I am a resident of Port St. John. I want to thank you for partially restoring my constitutional rights to come here and provide a brief commentary on the revised Brevard County ordinance that restricts registered citizens. By the way, the revised ordinance is still based on false information. This is not opinion, but facts provided by professional researchers, facts that were provided to the commissioners earlier this year. I moved to Brevard County in 2003 to help my aging parents. I had my retirement home built in Port St. John. Since then, I have seen both my mother and my father go on to their reward. My son and my daughter's families have now both relocated to Brevard and have their homes here. I am a registered citizen from an offense in Virginia. I have never had a sexual offense in Florida, yet I am designated a predator in Florida, not in Virginia. I am no longer registered in Florida. My daughter, the victim, long ago resolved the situation, and we get along fine just now. I have been active in community affairs both here and in Virginia. I was released from probation 11 years early. We are, let's see. What must politicians do to control people and their dissent? Avoid abstract ideas, constantly appeal to just a few ideas, give only one side of an argument, pick out one special enemy for vilification. This approach worked for Adolf Hitler and got millions of Jews murdered. We are still seeing a similar approach used today dealing with registered citizens. When my daughter first moved to Florida, I borrowed an RV for her to live in. When she needed to pick up some groceries, when I needed to pick up some grocery for her, she had to come out to US Highway 1 to pick them up by foot because she was in Manatee Hammock Park. While recovering from a stay in the hospital, I was one day trying to get my strength back by walking with crutches. My neighbor's son was walking the other direction carrying a cello case. I congratulated him, the result of a talk he and his dad and I had. A neighborhood biddy reported me to the sheriff because I was within 1,000 feet of a tot lot. I spent 4 months in jail, 3 in Virginia, for a violation of the ordinance. During that time, my mother had to be taken out of her home and put into assisted living, and while there, she passed away.
Commissioner Tobias?
Okay, thank you.
If I may, I'm sorry, we do have pending litigation involving this individual, so I just would like to bring that to the attention of the board.
Thank you
If I
very
may,
much.
Commissioner.
Captain Muncy, are you too a victim here, in your opinion?
No?
Okay. And second of all, you're very quick to point out your service to the country. What you did gloss over was what happened in Virginia. Do you want to, you use the word registered. Do you want to go over, and I'd rather you not, but do you want to go over what caused you to be a registered citizen?
I could tell you some basic stuff. My wife and I met in the Navy.
I don't think that had anything to do with what.
It sure did. Well, see, that's the problem. It's your opinion. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. If you want to talk to me, I'll meet you in your office.
No, absolutely not.
I'm going to reserve comment. Vincent Raldi? And after Vincent, Patty Panzerino?
Good morning. I'm here to speak about Section 74102B, more specifically the amendment, Section 74102.5. This amendment, which was passed without allowing the citizens whom it affects to speak, permits any business to self-certify their park. This alone defies common sense, since a business is not a park under any circumstances. This amendment is unfair and probably illegal, not only to registered citizens, but also to the businesses that find themselves within the 1,000-foot buffer. After a business self-declares, any other business within that buffer zone loses potential business. I would argue that the commissioner has no right to force a business in this county to possibly lose money. Your job is to make this county better for all. This amendment fails to do that in many ways. In your attempt to continually punish me for a crime I did my time for, you are, in fact, hurting and punishing other law-abiding citizens of this county. In addition, the original ordinance has prohibited me from obtaining a notary in order to file a, excuse me, let me back up. The amendment fails to do this in many ways. In addition, I wanted to come to the county offices to put my house in a trust for estate planning purposes, which is my desire and right to do. To do this, I had to obtain a notary. Well, can't go to my bank to obtain that notary because it's within 1,000 feet of a park. So I cannot conduct normal business that any citizen of this county is permitted to do. This is one example of many that I can offer that proves this ordinance hurts and punishes other individuals. Behind me, there's a woman in a wheelchair. Her name is Patty. And I care for her. I am her life partner. And the original ordinance makes it difficult for me to carry out those responsibilities. The amendment makes it impossible. Not only are other businesses off limits by the 1,000-foot buffer zone, but there's currently no way for me to even know where that buffer zone is. I cannot care for Patty. I cannot go pick up prescriptions for her. She fears, as you'll hear soon, that I might be locked up if I take her to a hospital, okay? So it appears to me that this commission will go out of its way to continually offer harsher and harsher punishments to registered citizens, all in the guise of protecting the public, when in fact, these ordinances and amendments do no such thing, okay? Patty cannot risk spending a night alone because I'm locked up in jail. It could end badly for her, and that would be on your head. I pray that this commission will realize the burden these ordinances and amendments put on all citizens, not just registered ones, and do the right thing and repeal them respectfully. Thank you.
Patty Panzerino, and after Patty, Brian Walsh.
Give me a second.
You're fine.
I'm elevating. Just don't put that to Thank you for your patience. I'm gonna put that right where my phone is. And hold that. Just 2 pages. Okay. Does that move?
Oh, you might be able to move the mic. I'm not sure if it's portable or not. Yeah.
That's as far as it goes. Okay, hold on. I don't have a very loud voice.
That's okay.
Can
I
you
think we
hear
can
me?
hear you.
Point it this way. That good? Okay. Good morning. I have spent many vacations here in Brevard County since 1997. My family lived in Melbourne Beach. I fell in love with this area, and for the past 6 years, I've been living in Palm Bay, which is a dream come true. Vincent Raldi is my primary caregiver and life partner who knows my specific needs. He has been my primary caregiver for 12 years, which includes 6 years here in Palm Bay. I won't talk about the fact that because of your proximity law, there are many places to visit for fun and entertainment that I am now allowed to go with Vincent as my caregiver. The purpose of my testimony here is to inform you of the punitive nature of this law that not only affects registered citizens, but their employers, families, and loved ones. Vincent cannot bring me to medical appointments, cannot bring me to CVS to pick up prescriptions, cannot bring me to my medical equipment provider because they are all within 1,000 feet of a school, playground, park, or daycare center. All the above makes my life difficult and quite limited, but there is one factor here that is potentially life-threatening for me. I am affiliated with Holmes Regional Medical Center, which is also within the 1,000-foot parameters, which limit registered citizens. My fear is possible illness or injury, which requires me to go to the hospital and or be admitted to the hospital. My disability, spinal muscular atrophy, require specific protocols that most hospital workers and clinicians are not familiar with. I can provide you data and information to prove that, if you wish. Oops, I just lost my place. For example, I have very specific ways I need to be positioned and assisted because of respiratory issues, dangers of aspiration, and acquiring injuries. Throughout my life, any time I have been hospitalized, it was imperative to have my own personal caregiver with me the whole time throughout my hospital stay. The thought that Vincent could be arrested for being there with me terrifies me. Terrifies me. This is life-threatening to me, an American citizen living in Brevard County with a disability. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Walsh. Sure. Oh, that's okay. No interest in the rest of the meeting. Commissioner Tobias?
Yeah, do you want to go quickly on the record and let us know you're not affiliated with the folks that came before you?
I have no affiliation with anybody here.
That's probably good.
That's clear because they're all departing at the same time.
Okay.
Okay.
My name is Brian Walsh.
I have a Victor Dodswite, and after Victor, Caroline Corbett, and that's it for public comment. Hi, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I don't know the name of the ordinance. My name is Victor, or Arthur Victor Dodswite, and I'm addressing the sex offender ordinance. And my problem is I have a neighbor. I've been a jail ministry and prison ministry for about 20-some years here in Brevard County in Orlando. So I meet some of these sex offenders, and some of them have very minor charges, including my neighbor who lives 3 doors from me. He was in a situation where he was just became an adult, and he was at a party in his partying days. Now they're long gone. He's a very mature adult. He's one of the most trusted men, friends I have. But he had sex with this girl at a party, and then she accused him of rape. And then, of course, he couldn't do anything because she would have been contempt of court if she changed her story. But anyway, since for all these years he's been on these tremendous restrictions, and now with this, whatever they're going to pass, it's going to be even more a heavier burden yet. I have another friend who's got a very minor. The problem with this the sex ordinance is they don't distinguish between serious offenses and minor offenses. And so the 2 friends I'm very acquainted with know their backgrounds, know the whole story, and I'm convinced of their truth because I know these men and their integrity. And the problem is they're being classified with very serious sex offenders, and now they have to suffer the same punishment that the other ones may justly deserve, but they don't deserve it, and I feel for them. My heart hurts for them. And I just want to plead for their cause and trust that the county will make the right decision on their behalf. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, Commissioner Pritchett, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Commissioner Tobias, can I ask you a question? You were on the state of Florida government for a long time. As far as levels of what they do for the sexual offenders, that comes from the state. Am I correct on that? Or you guys kind of lay out a lot of items from the state, what the state does?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Yes, part of my being part of the Florida legislature, and then part of the time I was there, we dealt with those quote-unquote Romeo and Juliet laws out there that looks at what appeared as this gentleman may have been speaking with. I don't want to get too much into it because in all honesty, I think I might have voted the other way on it, but it takes care of that, 1917 type of scenario that you hear. But to go off that, there was a constitutional amendment, Amendment 4 a few years back. I was strongly opposed to it. This one was the amendment that re-enfranchised folks that had committed felonies. I was on the minority side of that, so that's now in our Constitution. However, even the folks who were pushing for this, the people that I don't want to say had made terrible decisions, I'm probably better to say terrible people, recognized that there were two groups of people that were so heinous that they didn't even want to be associated with them. Those two groups of people that they didn't want to be associated with were murderers and sex offenders. So that one did pass, and I voted against that one. It's part of our Constitution, so absolutely I'll hold it. But I just want to let you know that Florida has already said overwhelmingly that they were much kinder than I would be, but they saw that those two groups of folks were so bad, their crimes were so heinous, that they never should have the right to vote again. Also, I'll throw in my 2 cents. You shouldn't ask me a question, but I think it's pretty unfair for decisions that they made in the past, that they compare us to the atrocities of Hitler and blaming us for potential deaths for decisions that were not made by, predicated by any of us up here. So I'm sorry, this was something that I brought forward. I think that our children are precious and innocent, and anyone that takes that away is absolutely horrific at the time they take that innocence away. And yes, there are greater people with much more forgiveness than me, but that's something that I don't have that level of compassion. The recidivism rates are through the roof, and for that, I apologize that you had to be compared to that for an action that I brought to the board.
Thank you, sir. I do want to note that some of this issue we're discussing is allowing people to come here for public comment. The problem is that we're so close to schools that it's created some obstacles that the county attorney has been working through, trying to find ways to give notice. I do want to just say, though, people go in and they serve their time. They can come back out and live, but there's some things you never gain trust back. And I will always err on the side of kids. So if there's ever an opportunity to protect children, I'm in with Commissioner Tabaya and Commissioner Zonka on that. So, people live their lives and do what they need to do, but we're going to do our best to make sure there's not any opportunity for vulnerable population to ever become victims. And I do feel so bad for victims, and I've lived a long life of trying to help people get better, and it's very rare people ever get completely well on the other side of that. So just wanted to make those comments. And I do feel really sad for the families that have to continue to carry a lot of weight and a lot of pressure from past things that have happened.
And I wasn't going to say anything because I feel very impassioned about this as well, and I didn't want to say anything that was, too harsh, I guess. But, when you're released from prison, whether it be, whatever kind of crime, felony, whatever, there's rules of probation. When you commit a sex crime, because I noticed how they conveniently called themselves registered citizens, and I was half tempted to ask them if they were commenting on their voter registration or their sexual predator or sexual offender status. But I think what bothered me the most, and Commissioner Tabaya brought it up, was being compared to Adolf Hitler, when in actuality, for the one guy 22 years prior, he committed a crime at 52 years old and then got up here and acted like the victim. So I have little sympathy for that, especially the guy that came up here and wore a uniform and demanded these rights, and he was the same guy that compared us to Hitler. So I have a feeling had he committed those crimes while in service to this country, he would not be up here in that uniform today. So it's sad because I think I'm just sad that he wore the uniform and got up here and complained that he has to be a registered sexual predator in the state of Virginia. And if you do a little research, you'll see that sexual predators are a whole new level yet of sex offenders. So I don't sympathize, and I'll always err on the side of caution, and I just don't care. It's not a simple robbery. It's not a bad choice as a teenager, and it's not something that you can easily recover from. And for the victims of those crimes, I'd love to see those guys come up here and talk about how their lives are changed forever, than hear somebody complain about how they can't go somewhere because they worry that they'll violate our sex offender ordinance. So I'm going to stop now. All right. Moving on. Moving on to public comments. Anita Killen.
Good morning. My name is Anita Killen, and I wasn't planning to speak today, but there was so much misinformation going around that I felt compelled to address some of that misinformation. First of all, when you were having the conversation about registered citizens, there were a few points that I'd like to correct. Number one, it was addressed that there's a Romeo and Juliet clause. That is true. If their individuals are 4 years apart. Problem is, there are many people that are still on the registry because that amendment was passed after their conviction. And either they were unable to pay for court costs to have it changed again, or for whatever reason, maybe they've moved out of the state, and Florida keeps them on the registry for life, even if they've moved. There are still a lot of individuals that are on the registry for Romeo and Juliet cases. The second thing is, you mentioned that the state statute influenced the ordinance here in Brevard County, which is actually an exclusion zone ordinance, which prohibits people that are on the registry from living within 1,000 feet of a school, park, playground, or daycare center. And the state has nothing in it for an exclusion zone. That is strictly Brevard County. You mentioned the individual who was wearing a uniform. By the way, that was his work uniform, and he was going back to work. You mentioned that predator has a more severe, serious label than offender. Let me share a story. There are many, many of them that I'm happy to share with you at a later date. But a more recent one was the individual who was working on International Drive on probation, working on International Drive. He lived close to the Brevard-Orange County line past UCF. He was 20 minutes late getting home from work. They violated him. They changed his status from offender to predator for being 20 minutes late from work. Yes, ma'am. I want to address the registered citizen versus sex offender. A sex offender sounds like somebody who is currently offending at this time, much like a commissioner, a teacher, a police officer. Those are present roles that they are in. These individuals are not offending. They are not offenders. They are not predators in many cases. And finally, the term even registered citizen barely even sums it up because they are registered. That is a true statement. However, they're barely citizens, particularly here in Brevard County. And the last thing I'm going to make a point on is this one-size-fits-all that we have here in Florida does not work any more than saying every politician is crooked, or every doctor, practices voodoo or whatever it is. I mean, you cannot make blanket statements about individuals. And finally, I'm here to educate. And I realize, and the last point is,
Your time
really
is up, and I
encourage-
have to be fair and
I
stop you because
understand, but just let me finish my
I
statement.
can't do that
understand.
because I would have to let everybody that gets up and talks, and I already let
I
you
will
spoke
put it
more
in
than 3
writing to
minutes.
you. Thank you very much for your time.